This is DawgNation's Countdown to Signing Day, brought to you by Kroger.
Don't you just love to see it? Like, I don't know why. Something about that intro, something about signing day getting closer. It gives me chills, and it's not the cold front that came through this afternoon. Like, I love signing day.
Kaylee, it's funny. When we started this segment last week, I had some folks reach out to me via social channels, and they were like, they got chills for another reason, because that name of that segment, Countdown to Signing Day, that used to be an old school recruiting show that showed up every Saturday morning on everybody's television when everybody, I guess, turned the dial still or whatever.
What's that?
I know, you're like, what's VHF? What's UHF? You got to turn the rotor. You got to turn the antenna. Good thing you could get the Superstation Channel 17, but that brought back memories to folks. But again, Kaylee, I want us to jump right into this because there are only 14 recruiting days left until early signing day.
Yeah, so if you missed last week's show, make sure to go back and watch. We did all the things that the class of 2025 still needs. Today's signing day coverage, though, is going to be all about those last-minute flips. We're getting closer and closer to the Flipmas season. We've got some potential flips for you, starting with the four-star defensive lineman, Jeramiah McCloud, currently a Florida commit. He ranks number 447. We said last week that what this class really needs immediately is a defensive lineman. Could Jeramiah McCloud be the guy?
I think he is, and he told me today when he told me that he'd scheduled his visit. It was kind of rumored, but he scheduled his visit to Georgia for the OV for the UMass game, and he said, I think he was kind of underselling it, Kelly, but he said Georgia's got a chance. They have a chance. Those really die-hard recruit folks out there I want them to make sure they know this. I want to make sure they know this. We remember Stephon Shivers, who was once a part of Georgia's class. He decommitted after looking like he was going to decommit for forever. He recently commits to Florida this week. I always want to make sure you guys know what's going on with that. And so if the Dogs wind up trading Stephon Shivers for Jeramiah McCloud, who's really tearing it up right now at Lee County with Leesburg, with Usman Croma, I think that's pretty good. He's about 6'3", about 280, 285. Really knifes into the backfield, kind of one of those havoc bringers and everything else like that. Really intriguing to see if Georgia can pull the flip and get it done this weekend with a current Florida commit.
Well, if you say you feel good about it, then I feel good about it, because what I've learned from today is that Sentell keeps lots of secrets.
we gotta make sure that
it's like, what is it? The doctor-patient confidentiality.
Yeah, that's right. It's like lawyer-client privilege or something like that as well. And it's something because, like, I think Kaylee, we'll see this kind of flesh out on all our great graphics later on in the show. But, like, I really feel like Georgia's maybe got 3, maybe 4 pieces left of this class, because they've got 26 public commitments right now. They're going to have maybe 3, maybe 4 more if it's the right 4th one. And then you got to imagine the class is also going to add, I believe, about 4 or 5 dudes from the portal.
Yeah, so we've got another name on the flip list for you. This is someone who I haven't heard about until recently, but he's going to come up on our show a lot today. You may have to help me with it. It's going to be Dennis Uzuchukwu?
That's pretty good.
Okay, I'll take it. Georgia State commit, offensive lineman, number 810. But as we've learned from this last year, you can't have enough players committed to the line of scrimmage.
So Dennis the Menace, sometimes they call him at the Ridge, Peachtree Ridge. Currently committed to Dale McGee University, but sorry, Panthers, if, Panthers Nation Daily, if there's somebody out there with a really syrupy voice that does that show every day. But these are things to think about here. Nigerian. He was firstborn in his family in the States. He's lived in the kind of Lawrenceville area all his life. But he's kind of, I guess I would say, a depressed hooper. He's started playing football in the 10th grade. He switched to offensive lineman in the 11th grade. So that's why he's a 3-star. But Kaylee, he's 6'6" and he's 289 pounds. And he looks like he's about 250. That's how very much he looks, like slim and very athletic, can carry a lot of weight. His high school coach told me, give him about a couple years in college, he'll be up to 315, 320, and he'll be a bad ASS. This is a family program. We're live. I'm not going to try.
We are kid-friendly.
I don't want to have Grandma, Mama coming at me with ivory soap from my mouth right here. But love the story about this. He moves from Discovery, who won 1 game last year, to Peachtree Ridge this summer. And within 5 weeks, I believe, 6 weeks, he was voted team captain.
Wow.
Tells you a lot. Now, obviously, 6'6", 289 tells you a little bit more. Georgia likes him. He's going to take his official visit to Athens this weekend. He just got offered late Monday night by the Dawgs, so he's suddenly out of nowhere a name. And it's not just Georgia. Like Ole Miss is chasing, Tech is chasing, Virginia Tech is chasing him, and it was going to be really hard for Georgia State to hold on to him.
The next one, I'm so excited to talk about this. It's a 5-star. He's a cornerback or defensive back. It's DJ Pickett, who's currently an LSU commit. And so he recently said that Georgia's atmosphere is the best he's seen at night. Jeff, that tells you so much considering he is an LSU commit where they claim to have the best night game atmosphere. If he's saying that about the Dawgs, I'm not surprised that he comes up on this list.
Claims. I like how Kaylee put a little bit of swerve on that comment right there. You got her a little smarmy, like look at that. Yeah, she's flicking her hair back. That's Kaylee. That's a little Kaylee attitude right there. And I think you should be a little bit interested, a little bit excited about DJ Pickett, especially if he can go from there. Now, he's rated as a corner, Kaylee. I don't think Georgia sees him as a corner. They see him as maybe a safety. Maybe they can pull kind of what the same KJ Bolden magic they did with a late flip. I know lots of folks out there always ask me, hey, what's the Kirby signing day special? Kind of feels like Pickett is kind of trying to get in the door there for that. Miami's also after him as well. So I think it was very intriguing that Georgia got him there and the visit went really well. And I saw him and he looked probably more clearly intrigued by everything he saw in Athens on Saturday than just about anybody in the first 3 rows.
Yeah, he's also the nephew of the former NFL defensive lineman Ryan Pickett, if you recognize the last name.
Good job. Way to go.
Thank you.
Way to go.
I try to do my job. I have to match you every week.
That's pretty good.
It's not an easy task.
I bet that turkey's going to be great now that you get from
I'm
Kroger's.
not responsible for the turkey.
That's
where we draw the line.
Squash casserole.
I can barely handle the green bean casserole. Okay, we've got one more page for you. Starting with the 4-star linebacker Tavon Wallace, who's currently an Arkansas commit. We've been talking about him on the show for a while now. I think my question to you is, why would he flip?
Let me kind of keep it real with everybody here right now. I still think he sticks with Arkansas. But as this young lady that's on Go With The Flow every week tries to pick Sam Pittman.
Don't know her.
And Arkansas each and every week, and it's just very hard to do because there are inconsistencies and they can just never really get it going. I think he likes Georgia, and like he told us recently for a DawgNation.com story, Georgia's like his second home. Here's what I think. If something happens to Travis Williams and that Arkansas staff, and we don't want that to happen. We don't want that to happen. Because those are good dudes, and that's a good guy and a good DGD forever, I would say, in Sam Pittman. Great coach. But I think that's where Georgia would have a shot. And I think if something happened with Travis Williams and Arkansas, I think it would be very quickly that you would see some flipmas action on Tavon Wallace, but not before that.
So it seems as if Georgia wants to sign 2 quarterbacks in the class of 2025 along with Ryan Montgomery. So the next one on the list is going to be a quarterback, and I'm just going to let you say the name because I'm not even going to be close. You already talked to him. He's a 4-star quarterback. He's committed to Cal. He's visiting this weekend, I believe, right?
No, he's changed it up. He's going to Cal this weekend, correct. And then next week he takes his official visit to Georgia. And I'm going to try it. You guys can play the pronunciation home game with me at home. It is Jaron Keawe Sagapolutele. That almost takes up look at that lower third graphic font.
The font is smaller.
I know, but cheers. Hat tip to the graphics department, our production team at Before the Hedges. That sets a new record for the longest lower third in the history of DawgNation Before the Hedges. Here's some good stuff. Here's some juice. I asked him this week if Georgia has a shot. He says, of course, Georgia has. Give me a great visit. Georgia has a shot. Kaylee, here's what's unique. So we mentioned earlier he was supposed to come initially for Tennessee, and then it got backed up to UMass, and now it's backed up to Georgia Tech. He is going to take his official visit, Kaylee. Think about this for a second. He's in Hawaii, and he's going to take his visit, and they're going to leave on Wednesday. That week. They're going to leave on Wednesday. They're going to spend Thanksgiving in Athens on their official visit. And then they're going to go to the game on Friday.
That's huge.
And listen, he may just be wanting to have a trip. He may just want to come to the Deep South and see a game in the SEC because he said that SEC offer really means a lot to him. But I'm going to tell you this, Miss Kaylee. If you're spending Thanksgiving from Hawaii and you're spending it in Athens, Georgia, that's something. There is a level of intrigue there when he told me that I must admit, it kind of fascinates me.
He's a lefty too, right?
He is a lefty.
That's cool.
Yeah, and one of the coolest things, I got to see him at the Rail Shot Challenge for the Elite 11 that was in California this year, and like he was going head to head. The rail shot is basically you got to just steamroll it. You got to throw a pass. It's got to travel about 30 yards in the air. It can't be an arc to it. It's got to land in the receiver's hands right on the goal line, and he's got to run for it. There can't be any waiting on it. Otherwise, that's not a rail shot. And he went back and forth with Dillon Gabriel, Oregon's quarterback QB1, Dillon Gabriel, over and over. And then Dillon Gabriel just tapped out and said, hey, high schools, you can just have this one. I want you to get your flowers for that. Other cool backstory, do you know Ryan Montgomery has reached out to Jaron, and he's been like, because they went with the Elite 11 together, that's an exclusive fraternity. It is really much like a brotherhood. And he's like, if you need any questions about Georgia, anything you need to know about Georgia, you hit me up and I'll tell you what you need to know.
Wow.
So that's brotherhood, connection, all those things Kirby Smart talks about in press conferences when he meets the media. You're already seeing a little bit of that with Ryan Montgomery, who was also in town for Tennessee as well. But you're seeing a little bit more of that with Ryan Montgomery and him trying to welcome potentially maybe the other quarterback that he would compete with in the 2025 class. Let's be honest, Oregon, so much closer than Athens, Georgia. Marcus Mariota is basically on velvet paintings in Hawaii for what he did in Oregon and what he did winning the Heisman Trophy and what he meant for football in that area. So listen, Oregon's going to be really hard to beat here. He says Dan Lanning and that staff calls him every day, but he is intrigued by Georgia.
Well, it's a lot warmer in Georgia. All right, so what we're going to do now, we started with a defensive line, and now we're going to end with a defensive line. It's going to be the 4-star defensive lineman, Kevin Wang, currently a Florida State commit. And I feel like he's just kind of been like walking this fine line, and we're kind of just waiting on that one big thing to happen. I think Georgia could use 2 more defensive linemen in the class.
Yeah, and maybe one of them might be a guy that's no longer committed in Manchester, Georgia. But just keeping it real, Kaylee, maybe that's the segment, keeping it real with Kaylee. But
we do that every day.
Keeping it Kaylee maybe, but I feel like he's going to flip from FSU, but I think it's probably might be to USC, left coast, or South Carolina, right coast. I don't know if it's Georgia. I think that Georgia's chance and Georgia's pull with him has kind of weakened a little bit. But, you know, that's all the flips. So, like, we put that graphic together, Kaylee, and it was like Kirby Smart's flipmas list. You know how Santa has his own list? Kirby's got his own flip list.
All right, well, that's our signing day coverage for this week on Before the Head. Just make sure to tune back in next week. Then we'll have actual signing day coverage, which is going to be awesome. Jeff Sentell and I will be on the scene. It's going to be a busy day. Make sure to come join us. Before the Hedges is always brought to you by Kroger. And Kroger right now is doing all sorts of Thanksgiving festivities. You should definitely check out Kroger.com/Thanksgiving because they've got recipes that you can try out and even like a calculator to help you plan the exact size turkey that you're going to need for your guests, plus prep and cook time. We're doing Friendsgiving this weekend, and I'm actually using the Kroger.com/Thanksgiving recipe section to do a green bean casserole. Not a stellar cook, but I am really excited that Kroger has this option. So if you need any sort of ideas or just a reminder, make sure to visit Kroger.com/Thanksgiving for recipes, inspiration, and like I said, that calculator to help you figure out what kind of turkey you are going to need. Make sure to check it out.